I wanted to ask about financing, how to get capital for your business, but specifically for somebody who just has the idea. Let's say it's somebody that's never run a business before. They have an idea and they want to start, but they don't have the capital on hand in order to actually start the business.
When you have an idea and you're starting your business, you need to identify what that capital requirement is, because every venture is different. If you're starting a home-based business, that's going to require less capital than if you're looking to open up a retail location or a restaurant, very capital intensive. So you really have to spend a considerable amount of time getting a handle on what exactly this business is going to need. And it's going to need a lot, not just capital. It's going to need a lot of time, a lot of attention, a lot of understanding. But let's face it, you need capital to get a venture off the ground. So you really need to be honest with yourself and determine what is that need? What does it look like? I would say from a startup standpoint also, it's important to understand that you're going to have to bring some capital to the table yourself. To receive 100% financing is more than likely not going to happen. You have to have what lenders call skin in the game. There are programs out there that may be helpful to you. The SBA does a great job of offering loan programs that are supportive of fledgling businesses. We need to, also consider, the definition of startup. You have, pre-revenue, pure startup, which is the most challenging category to be in because you don't have a track record. And we've talked about this in the past from a lending standpoint. Lenders they're all about mitigating risk. Their objective at the end of the day is to make good quality loans that will go out and help people, but also get repaid. They have certain things set in place to measure the likelihood of repayment. They have certain insurance policies, if you will, to ensure they get payment, whether it's SBA guarantees through an SBA loan or personal guarantees, collateral, things of that nature. But you are going to need to bring some money to the table. So I counsel my clients who are in a startup phase to prepare for that. And I'll flat out ask them, how much of your own money have you put away for this venture? If the answer is zero, then there's some work that needs to be done. But again, it depends on the business. If you're starting a home-based business, your capital requirement is not going to be nearly what it's going to be to open up a retail location. So try to get a plan in place for that, and that will circle back to the business plan that we try to help clients with that I think they should do. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, 100%. I know there is a stark difference, obviously. Even when you go into the home-based businesses, there's a difference between, a product or a service-based business. And so I have a lot of experience with an online home-based service, running my own business in that way, consulting, coaching, and things of that nature. And that startup capital is, I need some subscription services, but if I'm trying to move product, if you will, like if I have a nut butter that I'm making from home and I'm wanting to sell this out to other people, it's a bit more challenging. You have to think about logistics. You have to think about the ingredients that you're having to purchase, the time it takes you to create those and all of that. What, for somebody that is let's go with somebody in that position and we can shift to somebody that might need a physical location. And what are the different kind of startup options for them that help to circumnavigate the need for a huge startup capital injection? I think about somebody who has like a singular or a couple food item menu and they're trying to sell it. They don't need a storefront. What are some other options to help them? Like you said, we need to get some work done. What are some ways that they can get work done in regards to getting the business going without having to look for $200,000, $300,000, $500,000?
Right. Well, if you're talking about, having that type of business where you've got, product to sell, if you've got a few varieties of food that you're looking to sell, you really need to know what are your costs involved for producing this product. It's going to require capital to source the materials, the ingredients, to assemble whatever it is you're selling, whether it's food, whether it's a widget. Hate that word, but it is what it is.
It's a good catch-all.
You need to understand what is your cost. What are you going to sell it for? What are you looking at from a profit standpoint? It's important because at the end of the day, we're in business to make money. And we need to really take a look at what do we expect this business to reasonably generate for us. There have been times, and myself included, when I looked at a business and once you run the numbers, you realize, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. How do we change that? Or is this really what I'm looking at? But that's part of the due diligence phase, the planning phase, from circling back to the capital need. And we're focused on, a home-based business in this example. What are you going to need to have available to get this off the ground? Right. Before you even launch out the door, you're going to be expending capital for a lot of things. Yep. What is that requirement going to be? Yep. Because it's going to be on you to bootstrap it. Yep. It's a challenge to get a lender to lend to a pre-revenue business. There are some vehicles that can be used, well, bootstrapping, your own savings. Some folks use credit cards. I caution just to be mindful of how to use that in a proper fashion so you don't get yourself into a hole. Right. Friends and family. Those are the traditional avenues to start a business. It's important also to know that most lenders generally consider a business to be a startup if they have not eclipsed the 2-year mark. Now, why is that? Well, 2 years in business, you're still getting grounded. You're getting your foundation. You're learning from the business. You're getting some momentum going. Right. Hopefully, by that point, you're profitable, or you're trending in that way. Lenders look in the rearview mirror to determine what they're going to do going forward. And they do that by looking at financials. So if you're a pure startup, you don't have that yet. Right. You may have projections, which are often asked for certain SBA loans, a business plan and projections. That's something that is important to do because it gives you a chance to be realistic about what your expectations are. But to access capital as a pure startup is challenging. Absolutely. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I think the idea of bootstrapping and getting some iterations in sales and understanding that kind of functionality of the business under your belt in order to make yourself more appealing to lenders of whatever flavor they're coming in. I think that's critical if and when you can. So I know a lot of the clients we come in are food-based. And so I know that I've done counseling with some of them who haven't done this yet to consider like food markets and to go out and host vendor events. And so like, oh, okay, well that's easy. I'm not having the storefront. I'm not having all of these additional, I'm not having payroll. I'm just going out with the stuff I made in my kitchen and I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell it under a tent. But even with that, you made a really good point because regardless of how you go, like before you hit that table and you put out like your muffins, and you've got the sign out and it's like, it's got your logos that maybe your kid painted on there, but it looks great. Like my kids designed that. How cool is that? But all of that costs money. The cost to get the table, the cost to get the chairs, the marketing material, the actual muffins, like you were talking about, the ingredients, even to coordinate with the event and to pay the fee in order to be able to, that's all money that you have to consider before you go. But then it's a great way to get your first run at it. Like, oh, I only sold like 3 muffins. What happened? Like, are my muffins garbage? Like nobody ate them and threw them away, so people aren't noticing me. And then you can start playing through those. And I think that that's what you were getting at when it comes to lenders who want to see the business operating for 2 years is you've kind of gone through these iterations. You're like, oh, I've got some experience, I'm starting now. I can see that I'm getting close to that break-even point, right? Like, oh, money's coming in and it's covering now. I don't have to pay out of pocket for these events.
Right.
That's very helpful.
When you're first starting out, if your personal credit's in good shape, when you go to the bank to open up your business bank account, You open your checking account, savings account, whatever you decide to establish. Often the bank will ask you, would you like a business credit card? If you're able to secure one, I would encourage folks to do so, but use it prudently. That business credit card is really based off your personal credit history. You don't have business track record yet, but that can enable you to have access to some funds and give yourself 30-day terms for purchasing items and what you need. But you have to start climbing that hill until you're at a point where you're essentially bankable on a larger degree. There are options for you to explore. As a technical resource partner of the SBA, the SBDCs, provide a lot of assistance to startups. I mean, that's a lot of what we see here, as you know.
Yes.
To try to work through and methodically, to get a plan together that's going to help them get to the finish line that's in their mind. But the SBA has something on their website called Lender Match, which is basically, a tool that anyone can use to put some information in and then be matched up with a lender that may have an appetite for what you're seeking. There are some, small community based lenders that may have an appetite for startup businesses, a little more favorable than your traditional banks. So a good resource to start for anyone listening is, start with your SBDC, check out the SBA.gov website, look for Lender Match, see if you can be paired up with a lender that, again, may have an appetite for where you are at this point in your business. So those are a couple of things that I would, advise folks to think about.
That's huge. When it comes to their personal prepping and the kind of criteria they might want to be running themselves through prior to reaching out to a lender, what of the things that are within their control, what should they be looking at to tighten up or to prepare themselves for that conversation?
Well, personal credit is huge. That's a part of every application, regardless if you're a startup or a
What numbers are we talking about?
I would leave that up to the lenders.
Right.
I mean, right now in with what's going on at the time this podcast we're doing this,
right.
Lenders are tightening up. So I would say at this point in time, if your credit score is not 700 or greater, you may run into some difficulty. Yep. That's not to say that there are lenders out there who won't work with you.
Right.
You really have to have that conversation with the lenders. But
and
I would
it's
say
like one piece, right?
That's one piece. Yeah. Correct. That's one piece. Again, back to, lenders look to mitigate risk. And I was a banker for a long time.
Right.
In all my years, I never saw anyone come through the door that had everything that the bank looked for. I liken it to a scale.
Huge.
Liken it to a scale. It's a balancing act.
What a point. I think that's huge for people to take away that just because your profile isn't perfect, you're not the ideal candidate. There's no ideal candidate.
There's no such thing as perfect. There's always going to be something where there's a deficiency. But again, how do we mitigate that? Or how does the bank mitigate that? So, don't worry about being perfect. It just doesn't. I've never seen it. But surely you want the basics in line, which is good credit. You want to be able to articulate the funding that you need, how you're going to deploy it, how you're going to repay it, and what collateral you're going to offer as a safety net. Banks are what's referred to as cash flow and collateral lenders. Cash flow is paramount. Yeah. If your business is not showing the ability to repay what you're seeking in addition to your current obligations, it's basic math. There's not enough money being generated to cover what you currently have to pay in addition to what you're asking. So your cash flow has to be there. Right. In addition to that, banks want a second way out. They want collateral. So what might that be? Well, you're going to personally guarantee. You're going to hear the term PG, personally guarantee, meaning that if the business, God forbid, should go under, you're still responsible for this debt.
That is not what LLCs protect you from.
No. So you are responsible for the money, and
right.
rightfully so. Collateral could be, all business assets, could be your home, a second lien or a third lien on your home, whatever it may be. So you want to position yourself as best you can before applying for a loan. And that's something that we can help you with and understand, before you even get to the table.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. I think that there's another aspect that I want to hear your thoughts on in this, and that is if somebody came in with, I don't know, a 720 credit score and they have a kind of business, they have the business plan laid out, and that's all fine, but the business hasn't started. They're in the pre-revenue part of the startup business, not even operational, but they know that they need money. They know exactly where it needs to go, and they have that laid out in their business plan. It's great. How does their personal experience play in their past professional experience, their own personal experience? How does that play in? Is there a role for that lenders consider as well?
Sure. For fledgling businesses, that plays a tremendous role, because if you don't have experience in the field that you're getting into, so for example, if you're looking to, purchase an existing business, that's something that we do see a lot of here. Businesses, come up for sale, people retire, they move out of state, whatever it may be, a business may come up for sale. If I'm looking to buy, a metalworks business because I like the numbers, they look good, but I have no experience in that, it's going to be difficult to convince anyone to lend you money for that. Why? Because you don't have relatable, transferable experience in that.
Even though the business is thriving and successful and has cash flow, because you're the one coming in as the owner and you've never done that before, the bank won't have that experience to bounce off of to say, okay, reasonably they'll be able to come in and manage it because they've done something like it before. But if you've only ever been like an accountant, or you've only ever worked as a chef in a restaurant, you're like, I'm going to buy this because I saved up my money and I'm going to do it and I'm going to make this work. But I have enough to put down and put my own skin in the game, but I need the bank to cover the rest so I can buy this business. It's unlikely.
I don't want to say it's unlikely, but
Right,
but
it's a
you're
challenge.
gonna have to do some explaining and some convincing.
Got it.
How are you going to articulate that you're well positioned to take over the reins of this business and keep it going?
Got it.
If your background is in management and finance, this business already has a good team in place that you're going to continue. You're going to oversee that aspect of it. It's about getting the lender comfortable.
Right.
I would never say that it's impossible, it won't happen, but you're just going to have to really be able to articulate and get them comfortable with signing that check over. If you're looking to open up a restaurant and you don't have any experience in that area, it's going to be very difficult for you. One thing as a banker, that I've heard and is common is the saying that every borrower and every deal is unique. That just leaves it open for let's explore it. So there are some hard and fast things that just have to be met, but there's some flexibility to a degree, and that goes according to the lender. I can't speak for lenders,
Of course.
but I don't want to say that anything is impossible, but you're just going to have to be prepared to really tell your story and articulate everything as best you can.
100%. If you were to give a list of priorities of what somebody in that position should be thinking of, somebody who's in the pre-revenue phase of their business when it comes to accessing capital, or like what would the top three things, like what are the next three steps that they need to take?
Well, if you have yet to even start the business, you really need to do your due diligence and get the planning down, so you're prepared to launch and be ready to have access to capital, whether it's again your personal savings or whatever it may be. It's going to be a challenge to get traditional financing. Once you get the business operational and it's running, you're in the preparation phase to, in my opinion, to approach a lender in the future for capital that you may need, because now you're developing your track record. There are options for you. I don't want to say that there aren't, but when you're first coming out of the gate, and it depends on the business, you're really going to have to be prepared and ready to come to the table with some of your own cash.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's awesome, man. That's what's up.
And there's a lot more that goes into it, obviously.
Of course. Yeah.
Anyone that's seeking assistance, I would say, give us a call, give your local SBDC a call.
Right.
You don't have to go through it alone. It's usually helpful to bounce things off other people. And every client is different. We have clients coming in who are just starting. We have clients who are already out the gate and have a need for capital. So,
yes,
we will, pivot our advisement and counseling according to where that client is at that stage of the business. And it's a different approach.
Yeah. And it's a unique, it's not as unique of an opportunity as you might think, because there's SBDCs in every state. And within every state, there are more than one. Mm-hmm. Like there's 22 different offices in the state of New York. Right. And it's completely free to the person, to the client, for services for life.
Fantastic resource.
Insane. Fantastic. I was a client in 3 different states, and highly leveraged the opportunities presented and grew a lot as a business owner through those times. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So thanks, brother. I appreciate it.